Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of our MOOC. We're glad you're with us tonight. Hope you've been enjoying the season so far. If you have any questions or comments tonight, you can comment right in the corner. Oh, wow, what is that? MOOC. We're glad you're with us tonight. Hope you've been enjoying the season so far. If you have any questions or comments tonight, you can comment right in the corner. So the moral to the story is when you do your introduction, everyone, you mute the video that you have going on the side. So my apologies. Again, hope you're enjoying the season so far. We've had a lot of great guests. And when I was getting ready to think about this and really wanted to put this out there for people to see and learn from, there was one night I wanted to do on department leadership, and it was an absolute no-brainer that these two guys were the guests. In fact, if they didn't say yes, there wouldn't have been an episode on department leadership, because I really don't know any two better guys in the entire state of Pennsylvania that have better department leadership skills than these two. So with us tonight to talk about innovating HPE through the department leader's lens, we have from Conestoga Valley, Matt Trout, and from North Allegheny School District in the Pittsburgh area. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll let Dave take a minute and introduce himself.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Todd. I have been in public education now for 30 years. This is year 30. I've been at Conestoga Valley for 27 years, 23 of which I've been a supervisor, and I have an administrative level position there, which is kind of unique in Pennsylvania. There's not many of those left where we have department supervisors, and I know there's only a couple even left in the whole state. So I feel pretty fortunate to have that kind of position. Currently PSA for president-elect. In the past, I had served as PSA for VP for physical education, and also at Conestoga Valley, I serve as the new teacher induction coordinator, which is something that I do district-wide administratively outside of my department. I supervise essentially 3 different departments: health and phys ed, family consumer science, and gifted education.
Cool. Dave.
All right. My name is Dave Schmidt. I'm the health phys ed department chair at North Allegheny School District. I've been there. It's my 25th year, not quite as old as Matt, but catching up. As far as other things I do, I teach currently 9th and 10th grade health and physical education in addition to my responsibilities. I am not an administrator. I more coordinate the department and services, budget, things like that. I've taught elementary for 7 years, middle school for 4, and high school the rest. Also coached football, basketball, volleyball. Currently still coach volleyball and officiate basketball and volleyball. So trying to stay pretty busy. Have a tough time saying no to things, which is part of the reason I'm on here tonight.
Dave, you should do more. You're not busy enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there is an old saying that busy people get things done. So we're glad that you're with us, and I know your department's in good hands, Dave. Dave, we'll just start with you with leadership. Positive culture with your staff. I know culture is so important when you're dealing with people that you manage on leadership. And what are some things that you deliberately do with your staff to create a positive culture?
Really, the big thing for me is trying to recognize them for what they do. I mean, there's no way that I've done everything to get our department to where it is. I inherited a great department from our former department chair 15 years ago, and I've just really tried to clarify our vision and what we want to do. We have made some changes in some of the buildings, but I think we have such a strong staff. I have 30 teachers on our staff. They're phenomenal. They run individually great programs. We have a couple different teachers of the year and really strong people, even that haven't won but deserve to win at some point. So really is recognizing them and working with them and playing to their strengths.
Cool. So Matt, relationships, they're probably paramount and probably the foundation of any kind of management position. You cultivate positive relationships with your leadership in not only your phys ed, but your other departments as well. What are you doing deliberately in Conestoga Valley?
Well, I really think that it starts even before the staff are hired. I'm sure we're going to talk about the hiring process a little bit later, which is so
For sure.
Vitally important to everything that I do. I always say that it's the single most important thing I do is recruiting and hiring excellent people. There's nothing more important. And I'll start that even before they're hired with reaching out to them. I'll talk about, when we do the hiring process later, I'll talk about my voluntary visit that I ask people to do prior to the interviews. It's been something that has really cultivated a lot of, or brought in a lot of people that were really, really great people. And I could kind of weed people out from that too. Unfortunately, there are some people that look great on paper and maybe not as good in person, or don't have the same qualities that you think they had on paper. But really, I always say that leadership is about two pairs of things. It's about communication and relationships, and knowing what to do and then doing that thing. So that's kind of my mantra and what I've lived by for, the past 20 or so years. The first couple of years of when I was in this position, kind of making it up as I went along. There's no graduate course, even though I took them, that you can take that's going to prepare you and teach you how to do what we do. So I had to kind of muddle my way through it. And through the process, I talked to a lot of good people, had some good mentors at Conestoga Valley. And that's what I really try and do is, and don't get me wrong, just because I say communication, relationships, and knowing what to do and doing that thing, it doesn't mean you're going to get that right 100% of the time. I mean,
right.
You hit in baseball, if you get hits 3 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame. Now, I hope I'm a little higher than that, but with what I'm trying to do. But it really is about making sure you keep in touch with your staff, communicating. And Dave mentioned vision, and that's one of the most important things, because you have to, develop a mission statement for your program, stick to it, and then hire people that believe what you believe. And that's what's made it really nice for me.
Right. Well, you guys have some fantastic programs. I've had a chance to look at both schools and both curriculums, and Jessica's usually co-hosting this with me, but she's up in Burlington, Vermont, and couldn't join us tonight. But she told me a story, and Dave, maybe you can probably shed the details on this. Touching students is an important part of what we do, and we don't always realize the impact we have until if we're lucky enough, they come back and tell us. And she said that you met up with a former student sometime at school, and you thought they hated PE, and now they're an active adult. Can you kind of share that story a little bit and tell us that?
Sure, Todd. Really, that's one of the things I think as our profession goes. I think sometimes we doubt ourselves because, there's the stereotypical physical education teacher, and, you question things sometimes. But in this instance, it was really great. It was just a young man who was just confused when he was younger, really struggled as far as being motivated. He was in trouble quite a bit. And really, at the time, I thought, boy, I was trying hard to get through to him. I tried to go over and talk to him every chance I got and just befriend him and work with him. And I thought, boy, it just wasn't happening. He was a tough nut to crack. And anyways, I just kept trying and trying. I wasn't sure I ever did get through to him. And it was fun. Just a few years ago, we received the grant from the local Lowe's, and we were out in August with our staff and the Lowe's volunteers putting together an outdoor fitness course. And I looked over my shoulder and I saw some guys, actually young adults on the track working out, and it had to be 90 degrees out. Looked over and there's the young man I'm talking about. He's in his early 20s and he's on a brutally hot day out there working out. And so I went over to him and said, hey, what are you doing here? I couldn't get you to get on this track or do what I was actually to do back in the day. He said, it took me quite a while, but I still hear your voice in my head, and I still hear the messages, not only that I said, but some of his other teachers said, we all teamed up on him, trying to get him to go together. And he said, you know what? It took me a while, but I finally came around, and it's really made a difference in my life now. It was just a pretty cool moment to see that he was one of the toughest kids I've had to deal with over the years in my 25 years of teaching. And we got him. And it was really fun to see that sometimes you really think you don't have a shot, but you do, and you never realize. And if I hadn't bumped into him that day, I still wouldn't know.
Yeah.
He wasn't a soft and smushy kid who's going to come and send me a nice letter. He just, luckily I ran into him.
Right. No doubt. Hey, so just shifting gears a little bit, in today's world, budget cuts, parents thinking that PE is simply just running and unfortunately dodgeball. It's important to tell your story to the community, and I think you guys both do a great job at that. I'll just throw this out there for whoever wants to take the first one, and then we'll just kind of alternate from there. How are you telling your story to the community about the great things happening in health and PE at your schools? How are you getting that word out there? Because it's important, I think, to in school in this world where the doors are locked and parents can't just come in and see what's going on because they want to anymore. I don't know if Matt, if you want to jump on that.
Yeah, go ahead there, Matt. I'll follow up.
All right, I'll take it first. Well, we actually, coincidentally, on Thursday we have our high school parents' night. So obviously, every school has that. So one of the things I've encouraged my staff to do is to talk to the parents about what our mission is, why we exist, what our philosophy is, and what we're going to do for their kids, as opposed to reading through going through the syllabus. That type of thing when the parents rotate through classes. And I encourage that across the whole district. And, the funny thing is that I used to make fun of Twitter, and in talking to Todd and Jessica,
you shouldn't. It's an awesome thing.
I said used to, past tense, make fun of Twitter. And because I used to say, like, tweet your twits, and I would make comments like that, like to my students in school or my kids at home. And I realized that it's a really excellent free communication tool to get the word out about your program, but also the other thing it's good for is to learn. Every day there's something on Twitter from a fellow health and phys ed professional that you can learn. It could be an article link. There's some great stuff on there about brain-based research from Dr. John Rady or the Cooper Institute. Those types of things are very valuable. So I've been encouraging in the past couple months, encouraging my staff to develop their own Twitter page, advertise it, try and reach out to parents and or students or whomever in the community so they could see what we do, and post a 15-second video of students doing some sort of exercise, as opposed to, like you said, playing dodgeball, to show people what we're really about. My school district is very active in social media, and I guess we're lucky in that regard, in that we have one of our PR person is very good with getting messages out through social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. So those are the kind of things that we're doing. I remember back in the day, I used to have a website that I managed myself, and that has kind of gone by the wayside for more of a district type website. But I do feel that something like Twitter is more valuable because it's more dynamic than just posting something here and there on Twitter. Also, we have Schoology, which several of our staff members post things from time to time, so the parents could see on Schoology.
Do you know if your district has a district hashtag that you can follow and see some of the great things going on at school?
We do, and off the top of my head, I'm assuming it's hashtag CVSD, but then that would be the same as Cumberland Valley School District. So I'd have to look. What's that? Ours
is CV Proud.
Okay, I have to look that up and find out exactly what that is. But my Twitter feed is at mtrout5581.
Yeah. All right. Cool. You should definitely follow Matt. He tweets some great things out about brain-based research and the benefits of exercise. Dave, how about you? What are you doing to tell your story to the community?
I think there's a lot of different ways we do that. I definitely will touch on what Matt said. A lot of what we do is similar to what Matt does. So reinforce that. But I think one way too is just having great teachers and great things going on in the classroom. I think you're your best advocate when kids go home and they're excited about what you're doing at school. They're talking about it. When you're being a great role model and you're at the park mountain biking or kayaking or running, and parents see you out there living the life that you're practicing what you preach, that makes a great difference. And I think that's one of the things we do very well as a department. Open house is another huge tool. Years ago, and this is probably going on for 15 years now, we quit doing individual open houses, and we have a big presentation. We bring all the parents that are there for each period into the gymnasium, and we do one big presentation. It's a sales pitch. What do you remember when you were in school? That's not what you have now. We talk about the what, the how, the why, and all the things that we do, how it ties into academic performance. we give them a sales pitch of the importance of PE, and then a curriculum overview. But again, like Matt said, not the syllabus. It's more of a sales pitch, and it's been very well received. We have a 5K fundraiser every year where we have people, depending on the weather, that show up to run a 5K 1 mile with us. That's been huge. Grant writing.
Your staff does that too? Your staff?
We organize and run the race, and then it's for community members.
Oh, awesome.
And a lot of grant writing, from the PEP grant we got back in 2008 to a lot of high mark grants, but those get published in the newsletters. People see that we're going above and beyond. Programs, a lot of that. Just being leaders in the wellness initiatives in the district. Our teachers throughout the district are leading wellness initiatives in their own buildings, so that ups their status with the other teachers. They see that they're going above and beyond for the kids, for the other staff. And I think Twitter is huge too. Our district hashtag you're asking about is NASD Learns, and we're constantly tweeting. And that's one of the cool things. You don't realize your power. I'm also a parent in my district, and I have a senior in the district and 6th grader, and sitting around watching the game the one day, they're talking about, hey, do you follow Coach? And Coach is one of our middle school PE teachers. You got to follow Coach. Her Twitter feed is great. She's posting videos of the kids. And so all these moms are talking. There must have been 15 moms that are talking around, and they're all jumping on and following Coach now. And that's Coach Hinton over at Ingmar Middle School. But those things catch on. Instagram. One of our other middle schools, they're not into Twitter as much, but they post on Instagram all the time. They have a huge following. So the kids love to see themselves. The parents like to see what's going on. And then the last thing, we just had a great story just 2 days ago. One of our elementary teachers did a great initiative where he was teaching growth mindset through gymnastics and tumbling. And the kids had to pick a difficult skill and then work at it, videotape themselves using their iPads, go home, show their parents, and the parents actually had to log on to Google Form, learn about growth mindset, talk to their kids about growth mindset, and then talk about how that affected their practice behavior. And that was Chris Jackson at Peebles Elementary. He got a phenomenal response from parents. But what a great way to do a great lesson and advocate for your program at the same time.
Absolutely.
Those are all things that have been great responses.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, you know what?
Jump in and add something that I forgot.
Yeah, go.
Well, first of all, I mentioned Twitter, and that's only more of a recent thing for several of us on the staff. But something that we started working on last year with myself and Annette Facera, who was on, I think that was episode 2 that you did, or episode 2 of the MOOC. She's on my staff and does a great job teaching high school health. And Lindsay Paul, who is a high school phys ed teacher for us, the 3 of us are working together on a student health council. We got a grant from the Conestoga Valley Education Foundation for startup costs. After this year, it'll be self-sustaining, but we have the 3rd meeting with students actually tomorrow. And we're working on electing officers. We're just in the beginning stages. Tomorrow, electing officers, forming a constitution, which is required by the school district. And we're looking at doing a color run in the future, to raise money for the council, as well as raise awareness for health, fitness, and wellness, that sort of thing. So there's a variety of ideas that the students have come up with. And, we really got some great ideas from Julie Groft and Colleen Palmer over at Garden Spot High School in New Holland, PA. So they've been very helpful to us as well. But that's something that we have a lot of hope in. That's really going to bring a lot of awareness to the program throughout the community as we move forward in the next couple of years.
I just love that you're involving students in that too, because obviously that's why we're all here. That's what it's all about. And it's just so great when we can, not just be a bunch of adults sitting around the room thinking about ways we can improve student wellness, but we're involving them. So that's really great that you're doing that. And we can't wait to hear more. In fact, maybe you come back for next season and tell us how it's going.
Sure.
Hey, so Matt, you suggested that we move to the hiring process, and that's actually one of the places that I wanted to go tonight. And I just started with I'm a department leader as well at Cumberland Valley, and when I first got my job, a good friend of mine who was a year into his principalship said to me, he said, when you become a leader, he said, your kids just get older. So that was pretty funny. There's always,
yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's very much similar to the role of a parent. And I'm not being condescending when I say that, but
me neither. I think it's, would you
No.
agree with that one, Dave?
really is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, whoever wants to go first, maybe Matt, you started the last one. So why don't we let Dave start this one? So when you first moved into leadership, how did you deal with the teachers who maybe didn't buy into you guys both have real progressive and liberal views on what a quality physical education program looks like. How did you deal with maybe the teacher who was saying, I'm comfortable where I'm at and not fully bought in?
Sure. I mean, when I first became department chair, I was a middle school teacher, and one of our buildings where I teach now had a very traditional curriculum. And being in our society today, I'm no different. I was a little judgmental, and I started talking about things, and the answer was, "Well, you don't teach here, you don't understand." So I went there the next year. The opening happened. I went there, and what I found out was, as judgmental as I was, that those were great teachers and great people. And once I got there and realized that, and the fact that they were just doing what they had been prepared to do, they taught team sports, and we had a very traditional curriculum. So I just taught what I believed in, and I had the support of the administration to do that. And it was best practices, America standards at that time, NASB standards. But once I started to do that over time, then our first hire came along, and I got a great coworker who came in and had a similar philosophy, like Matt said. We hired based on philosophy, and he and I were doing it, and other teachers started to take notice, and we just started conversations around it. And then kids started asking, well, how come we don't get to do that? And they weren't asking to go to play basketball. They were asking to do some of the innovative things we were doing, some of the mountain biking things, some of the workouts we were doing. And like I said, the teachers that were there weren't bad teachers and weren't bad people. They were great people and great teachers. But once they saw that what we were proposing worked and was good for kids, it was those teachers that came and said, hey, let's rewrite the curriculum. Let's all get on board and start doing this. And that's where it really started to take off, is once everybody got on board. Yeah. And we realized that, it is what's best, and then just snowballed from there.
It kind of reminds me of what your situation kind of reminds me of a quote George Couros has, of making the positive so loud that it drowns out the negative. And it sounds like you guys just kept on keeping on, and it kind of built from there. Matt,
yeah, I would say so.
Matt, what do you have to add? Because I know you and I have talked a long time ago when you first got your job, that you didn't have buy-in right away when you first came in, and you really have turned that program into something. Do you have some similar thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was 23 years ago that I got the position, and I was 32, so you could do the math. And it was difficult. I'll tell you that I'm not going to lie. It was a very difficult situation. I was not what I would call a senior member of the staff. Applied for the position, went through the interview process. Not even really honestly thinking that I was going to get the job, because at the time I thought I was too young. But a former superintendent, Mr. Harry Worth, who I have a great deal of respect for, he told me afterwards he saw something in me, and I ran into him recently downtown Lancaster at Central Market, and we talked, and he said, I love it when I'm right, that you're still doing the job 23 years later. That's what he said to me.
That's cool.
But the buy-in was definitely not there. I had people that, I can't say everybody, but there were several people that had been doing, very similar things for many years. And, the C word scares a lot of people. They just didn't want to try and change. So it really is perseverance, and me trying to figure out my own system. And I used to say that my theme song is by the Rolling Stones, "Time Is on My Side." Right. So eventually I was able to, because of my position, I'm able to be directly involved in the hiring process. And that's what, after a couple of years, we made some changes right in the beginning. But when things really started to snowball was when I was able to start to bring some people in that had a similar philosophy and approach. And that made things a whole heck of a lot better.
Well, speaking of the hiring process, Matt, I'll just let you keep going with this, and then we'll jump to Dave, because you both have been able to hire superstars. I'm not sure if you each of you know how many Teachers of the Year you have on your staff, but I know there's at least 2 or 3. And I mean, Matt, you had Annette Facero, who was in episode 2, and Liz Burkhardt, who was our guest last week, actually started her career with you, so you had a hand in.
One Teacher of the Year. She was with us at CV Middle School. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that you're hiring superstars? What do you guys go through? Talk to me about that.
Well, actually, that's, like I said, it's the most important thing, and luckily for me, it's my favorite thing. There's nothing I enjoy more than the hiring process, because you get to meet a lot of enthusiastic, highly motivated people. And like I said, I'm heavily involved in the process. And I look at it as recruitment. And I have this saying that if it's the NFL draft and I want Peyton Manning and not Ryan Leaf. And if anybody out there knows anything about the history of the NFL, you know, Peyton Manning obviously has an NFL Hall of Fame caliber career, and Ryan Leaf eventually ended up in prison. So he was the second pick and Peyton was the first. So, but they, on paper and even, you know, on film, they looked almost identical, similar skill set. So it really comes down to, what I've discovered throughout the years is it comes down to, you hire for character. You hire the people with the right character traits that believe what you believe in. They believe in what the district is trying to accomplish. They want to be at Conestoga Valley where we're located. They believe in the mission that we have. And probably one of the best things that I've done in interviewing was, I mentioned the visit earlier. And the visit is that I will invite potential candidates for interviews after a pretty thorough screening process to come to Conestoga Valley and meet me at the high school. And it's kind of an open-ended visit, so to speak. So let's say we meet at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll meet them at the main entrance. I walk them around. I show them our facility. I save the fitness center for last because that's kind of like our crown jewel. My goal with that meeting is to learn as much about them in an informal basis as I possibly can. And frankly, it is an informal interview. I'm not asking formal interview questions, and they can ask me anything they want. And the people that come the most prepared are the people that I'm most impressed with. And I remember Liz Burkhardt's visit. She was right out of Westchester University. Rick Stevenson recommended her to me. And, I rely heavily on people that I trust from the various universities from throughout the state, like Fran Cleveland and Rick Stevenson, Gene White, Randy Nichols. Maybe you know Randy from episode 1. So I rely heavily on those types of recommendations. And I brought Liz in, and she had a legal pad with about 4 pages of questions for me. And I felt like I was being interviewed, and I was very impressed by that because she came in very prepared and she had the same philosophy. So by the time it's over with the visit, all the visits, and if I have 6 to 8 people come in for a visit, I pretty much know who I want. By the end of those visits, all they have to do is go through the next phases, which are the administrative interview with the principal and myself. There's a teacher panel that I'll set up with my own staff to interview them directly after the administrative portion. And then we'll select a few finalists. They go to the superintendent. We used to send 2 to 3 to the superintendent who we had for 19 years, but now we have a new superintendent that may change that process. I'm not sure yet because I haven't gone through it with him. And then I have a conversation with the superintendent, and every time the cream rises to the top and we get the right person, because I've done my homework up until that point in time. I do extensive, calling of people that I trust with references. I don't do like a 2-minute reference call. I'll say, I need probably 15 minutes of your time at least. And if it's somebody I know, they kind of know the drill, and they think, okay, I better get comfortable because he's going to ask me a lot of questions. So that's the most important thing, because, you want to hire for character. You want to get the right people. And I really want to hire people that don't think it's about them, that they understand the 2 basic questions that I also use when we make department decisions. What's in the best interest of the students? Number 1. Number 2 is what's in the best interest of our program. And when you get people that understand that, man, some really amazing things happen. And, just to plug my staff, I had 8 people present at the PSA for conference in Valley Forge in November. So it shows you the type of people that we have.
That's really awesome. How about you, Dave? Talk to me about your hiring process, because I know you have some state teachers of the year. In fact, you even have a national teacher of the year on your staff. So tell us about how you found all these people.
Well, really, I mean, reiterate everything Matt said. You know, obviously he knows his stuff. But I think networking, getting out there and meeting as many people as possible, being involved with Pennsylvania AFERD is a huge way that I've gotten to know people, and that's how we got a lot of good candidates in. I'm not the administrator at our district. I'm an invited guest on interviews. The principals run the interview process. We have a very, very thorough, tough interview process, many layers of it, and we individually score the applicants. But what I try to do is, if I nominate or recommend somebody for an interview, is the best I can do. If I can stuff that ballot box and get a whole bunch of good candidates in the interview process, like Matt said, the cream rises to the top, and we'll get the best candidates to come to the top. And we've been very fortunate in that. And I think I'm guessing this about Matt's school. I know our school is a very high-end school. It's one of the better schools in the state of Pennsylvania, and our pay scale is pretty good too. That's it. So we do tend to get people who are highly experienced. We can recruit people from other districts. We were fortunate enough this year to get Melanie Lynch came to join us, a National Health Teacher of the Year. We've hired many teachers with 5, 6, 7, 8 years of experience from other districts. So they come in and they've already have a portfolio set up. I can see that they're doing great things where they've been. So you're really not taking much of a gamble. Although we do have a partnership with Slippery Rock University. We house their student teachers or host their student teachers. And through Dr. Nichols and the rest of the staff at Slippery Rock, we find some good candidates there too. We get a lot of, and we've hired several people through Slippery Rock University. And I really think it's just the networking aspect and finding the people that are the most passionate about what they do. They're great role models, and they really have passion for practicing what they preach and bringing it to the kids. And then, like Matt said, that's the character that I'm looking for, is that passion, and then it comes through in their lessons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I love the networking. I lead my department too, and I think the networking piece with PSA FERD and is just so important, because it really helps you find candidates. I mean, that's awesome that you guys are.
When I've been at PSA for conventions, I don't hesitate. If I see a young professional who's doing great, say, "Hey, we're going to have an opening. Please apply."
Yeah,
I never make a promise, because it's not my job to make. I can't make promises, but I at least want them in the applicant pool.
Sure. Now, do you do informal? Like, will you invite somebody that you meet at like a PSA for conference in and just have a chat, even if you don't fully have an approved opening yet? Just will either of you guys do that?
Not me. I'm not the administrator. I do have a lot of people come in and just visit to see the program, and we're pretty open that way. You know, people come in all the time and just spend the day, spend half a day, and see what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But not as a part of the application process. Like I said, I'm not the person running that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll collect names. You know, like Dave said, that if he sees somebody at a PSA for conference, you know, someone that may be in college, East Stroudsburg, Slippery Rock, Lock Haven, wherever, you know, Westchester. And typically I like to talk to the professors from those universities if I run into them. And that's the greatest thing about going to state convention, is the networking. That's what I get out of it more than anything over the past, you know, 28 to 30 years that I've been involved, however many years. But, you know, to try and get names, put a name to a face, and if possible, talk to that person, give them my card, say, hey, keep us in mind for the future. You know, I want to know who the outstanding future professionals are. In fact, all the nominees for the outstanding future professional, I emailed every one of them personally the last time I got the list from Dave Lorenzi. And I emailed each one of them personally and try and reach out to get the best of the best. And that's really what you want to do. I mean, in the past, we had brought some people in that had experience, like Dave mentioned, but that's getting fewer and further between, because, you know, with pay scales and everything else, if you could pay somebody first-year teacher salary, and the master's degree doesn't really scare the school district. I don't think that some people think that I shouldn't get a master's because it prices me out. I don't really think that's the case. But someone that is probably 5 years plus, it's a little bit more difficult to try and, you know, bring someone on with that type of salary unless they volunteer to maybe take less, because it's all negotiable with the superintendent anyway. But
Right.
you know, so try and do as much as we can, keep my eyes and ears open.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, we're running out of time, so I want to kind of move it along here to the next two things, because these are important pieces to it. So let's shift to professional development, and Matt, we'll just keep it going with you, because you know, quality professional development is essential to having a quality program and letting your teachers grow and innovate and so on. How do you balance the value of individual professional growth with school district growth? So like, you know, versus your health and PE needs and program needs versus like the districts coming in saying, hey, reading scores aren't where they need to be and we need to figure this out as a group. How are you balancing that?
Well, my goal for every professional development day is to grab as much time as I possibly can for my staff. As long as the district doesn't have a specific district-wide PD initiative that everyone must go to, I could usually get my staff for either the whole day or most of the day. For example, upcoming February 16th, I have a guy by the name of Dave Schmidt that's coming in and taking a whole day for us. And
I heard he's pretty good.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome. And a guy named Todd Bedard is going to join us. So
I hope so. They're stuck with him all day.
Yeah, that Todd guy. I'm not sure if I know him, but anyway, that's what I try and do. And I try and what we will do is at the department meeting or two prior to the PD day, we'll map out the agenda and what we want to work on. And typically it's working on our yearly department goals that we set the year before, because I try and set my department goals in the spring of the preceding year so that we're ready to just roll them out and start working on them immediately when we start. And we get it when we start the year. We get an early dismissal once a month where the high school students get dismissed at 12:30 and elementary somewhere around 1. So I typically have my department meeting 1:15, 1:30, and runs till about 3 o'clock. So that's professional development as well on a monthly basis where we get people together. Don't always get everybody in the same room at the same time. Because like I said, I have 3 different departments. They have different needs. That out ahead of time as much as possible. And for February 16th, we have Dave for the whole day. In the morning, my elementary phys ed staff, along with Marie Schlegel, who teaches 8th grade health for us in our middle school, they're doing 2 sessions on energizing brain breaks with some of the research that we did from reading the John Rady Spark book, as well as Kinesthetic Classroom from Mike Kazala, those types of things. We are we're delivering those sessions to classroom teachers to get out the message that movement is a good thing. Movement re-energizes the brain, it enhances learning, that type of thing. So those are the types of PD activities that we try and do, and I really try and map those out as much as possible far in advance so that we get the most out of the day.
Awesome. So I'll just throw this to you because I know a lot of our listeners are sitting out there going, hey, you guys have these great programs and it seems like your budgets must be seemingly unlimited and you have access and so on and so forth. And we at our school don't have access. So in the world of tight budgets for professional development, where somebody, like I know of a district in the Harrisburg area, they get 1 professional day every 4 years where they can go to a conference, and for the other 3 years they can't leave. So what advice would you give, or how are you dealing with professional development budgets to get your people out to conferences?
Well, first off, a lot of our professional development happens in-house and doesn't cost us anything. There's so many good things out there. We're very fortunate. We get to meet 7 times a year for half a day. And a lot of it, the professional development is teachers sharing ideas with each other. Best practice is something we learned, maybe it's off of Twitter we learned or wherever we got it, but one person goes out to a conference, they come back and share what they're getting with everybody else. So that's one way. And I think the better you're doing in your field, at least in my mind, I found our budgets go up, our opportunities go up, the better our program is. So, the better we've gotten, the more support we've gotten from our administration. I can't promise that in other cases, but that's definitely happened in our area.
Well, that's one of the things I would always say too is if you have a program where they're thinking of cutting it, do what you can to make it amazing and make it the toughest decision they're ever going to have. You know, because when we recently rewrote curriculum in our school, and you guys both know from doing that, there's ups and downs to that, and people get frustrated. And on the frustrating days, I said, look, we need to just keep doing our best. And if there is going to be something that they're not going to approve, let's make that the hardest decision that they can possibly make. So, yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, something I tend to say also regarding this is that image matters.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a strong image that, we teach health and physical education, we're not gym teachers, and also that we're doing everything across the board as good, if not better than other teachers within the district regarding curriculum instruction and assessment, then good things are going to happen. There's grant availabilities that are out there. Todd, you asked about sending people to conferences. I'm fortunate that I pretty much can make some decisions about that within our department. But if we send people to conferences, we essentially give up other things. So if we have X number of dollars in our budget and we decide to send 2 or 3 people to Seven Springs, that's not a cheap bill. So we've got to sacrifice other things, meaning equipment. So in my mind, the professional development and the networking that we get by doing those types of things for PSA or regional, whatever conferences is well worth it. I've experienced 20%, about 20% loss in my budget across the board over the last several years since the recession hit. And what was that, like 2008? So we've got to be more frugal and we've got to watch our money a little bit better. But I really like what Dave said about having in-house professional development. And I was talking about that earlier, that's some of the most valuable time that we have. We learn so much from one another that it's a great opportunity just to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's free.
Well, one of the big things that's coming out, and before we wrap up,
Dave's not free. Dave's coming in for PD on the 16th, but I'm paying him $20 in a Happy Meal. So that's not too bad.
You're not paying me that. You told me I have to for free.
Dave can give you a chicken nugget.
All right. It's just at least a chicken nugget, barbecue sauce, or I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but one of the things before we wrap up the professional development section is that you're hearing a lot with students. It's almost kind of a buzzword. It's been in the business world for a long time. Started at Google. It's called 20% time, where people are doing passion projects, and people have written books about doing passion projects with kids and making it student-centered. Recently, I've been reading a book where there's a school district in Wisconsin that's doing teacher passion projects. It's kind of all based upon I don't know if you guys have read the book by Dan Pink called Drive, where he talks about giving people autonomy as a major motivator beyond money even. What are you guys doing in terms of giving teachers autonomy, in terms of creating projects that are making your departments better?
Wanna go, Dave?
Yeah, sure. I think our teachers have a lot of autonomy. We have a pretty big district. We have 2 high schools, 3 middle schools, and 7 elementaries. And while we have common curriculum, everybody brings their own topics to the table and how they do it. And I think if you try to say you have to all do this the same way, first of all, it wouldn't happen. And second of all, I think you take away from that passion. And because we have teachers that are very passionate, like I mentioned that Chris Jackson example the other day, that's a passion project he came up with.
That's fun.
And then he's going to share it, and other people do the same thing. So if we don't have those passion projects, we don't get better. And sometimes It's something as simple as one of the things we do in our district, in my building, is we have PowerPoint presentations. It sounds kind of boring, but we have projectors in every facility we have. And so up on the board is this for the day and everything, where to go for further information on the topic. And then when I'm done creating that, I share with my colleague. And when she's done creating hers, she shares hers with me, and we just keep snowballing off of each other. So there's passion projects that might be one person's passion. Somebody else tweaks it, then the next person tweaks it again, and next thing you know, we have this great resource. So I think those things just build off of each other and really make it great when you have a lot of good people working on it together.
Yeah, we have at CV, we have a 4-year differentiated evaluation rotation. And 1 out of every 4 years, the teachers need to go through, it used to be called clinical evaluation. Now it's called formal supervision. which means that 3 out of the 4 years, they typically choose to do something called a professional growth project. So we've got some excellent work that's come out of the pro growth projects. You know, like for example, I mean, Annette Facera is doing the Student Health Council. My middle school health teachers were working on being involved in the district-wide rotational model with alternate means of instruction, with having students rotate to stations. It's really interesting to see that in play. Greta Krebs from Brownstown Elementary worked on getting bikes for kids, and cleaned out a shed at outside of Brownstown to put the bikes in, and is teaching bicycle safety, those types of things. And Julie Groff in the past was involved in that. So there's just those are just a few examples off the top of my head of how the teachers have the ability, and I absolutely encourage doing professional growth projects. I mean, if you got a teacher with 20 years experience, it really makes no sense to observe them a couple times a year and then base their evaluation off of observations, because mostly they're just going to be excellent anyway. So to add to the program, the district, the community with pro growth projects is pretty nice. We've got some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, that's great that your district had the foresight to allow that, as make that part of the education plan. That's really great. So let's shift gears to the last one, because we're running kind of over time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Curriculum and curriculum revisions. You guys are both aware that there's revisions coming to the PA standards. I think one of you may be writing them, Matt. My thing is, what I'm seeing a lot in just in our area, there's still the prevalence of the sport model in secondary PE, and you guys both have outstanding programs and recognize the flaws with that sport model. Can you take us through the process that you use to create these what I would consider revolutionary programs, really? And so, Matt, if you want to start, and then we can close it with Dave and do some final. If there's any questions on Twitter, hit us up at InnovateHPE, or comment in the live YouTube, and we'll do questions to wrap up.
Well, from the very beginning with the standards movement, when PA state standards were first approved back in 2002, we embraced it. And we said, this is the law of the land. Chapter 4 of the PA School Code says you have to teach this. You have to teach this content in one way or another, and you have to assess the content from the standards. So we jumped on board right away. We used the curriculum framework of understanding by design in order to do that. And in fact, the health and phys ed staff we were trained the trainers. The health and phys ed staff trained the rest of the school district in the elements of understanding by design from a curriculum writing standpoint, as well as from a lesson delivery standpoint. So we jumped on board right away. As Todd mentioned, I am on the committee to rewrite the standards. We're working with Nick Slaughterback, among others, from, he's from PDE, and we have several excellent people on the committee that are writing. We started with the SHAPE standards and the outcomes, and we're kind of tweaking those. A lot of great work was done by Shape America already, so we didn't have to rewrite the book. Randy Nichols said in the first meeting, this is a great quote. He said, not only do I want to think outside the box, I don't want there to be a box. So we didn't even look at the old Pennsylvania or the existing Pennsylvania state standards. We started fresh by looking at what was brand new from Shape America and moved in that direction. So we use that at CV, we use that as our basis, and essentially, let the teachers use their talents and creativity to figure this thing out. I mean, I don't write the curriculum, didn't write a word of it. They wrote it all. I manage it. I fill out the PACE forms, if they get extra pay in the summer to work on it, and I have to read the curriculum and approve it. But, like we said before, if you hire the right people, you're going to get some excellent work. And that's essentially where it comes down to. You can't have a great program without great people. And, you could have the best program on paper, but you have to have the people with the talent and motivation and desire to deliver it. So, that's where I think we are. And I have an excellent staff at Conestoga Valley. I'm very proud of.
Not to put too much pressure on Matt there and Randy and all the others writing those standards, but we're expecting great things. Because As we move forward, I mean, one of the things I did when I became department chair is I thought I set a very good philosophical where we want to be and what our goals are. So, since day one, is that everything that we teach should involve physical fitness and be lifetime in nature. So, if we don't have the kids for a lot of time, and I think if it doesn't involve some amount of physical fitness, or at least not everything is going to be practicing fitness, but at least learning about it and then having that lifetime component to it makes a big difference. So I think if everything you teach does that, and then also works towards the national standards and builds the skills that lead to those outcomes, it's huge. So we just try to lead by example in doing that, and the rest of the pressure's on Matt and Randy and Melanie and all the rest that are writing those standards.
Yeah, no pressure. No problem. It's okay. Last thing here, going off what Dave said, yeah, we have a fitness first attitude. And like I said, I don't micromanage the staff when they write curriculum based on the standards, and I always say that nothing is sacred when we do curriculum revision, but the one thing that actually is sacred is fitness. And that's from the concepts through actually trying to get students active and physically fit through what we do in PE is the most important thing. There's a statistic out there that says 95% of people over the age of 25 do not participate in team sports. So if we're running a team sport model in phys ed K-12, how are we really helping? And the things that Dave is doing out there in North Allegheny are pretty amazing. And when I heard him talk about them, we presented together in Valley Forge with Liz Burkhart, and each of us did like a 15-20 minute segment on our program. I may have run a little over, sorry Dave, but when I heard some of the things that he was doing, even though Dave and I have had numerous conversations over the year, I thought, perfect. February 16th, we're bringing him in, whole day. Let's just go for it. So that's what we're going to do.
Hey, I just want to piggyback off of that for a minute, because I forgot I'm working with Melanie Lynch. And if I don't mention this, I'm going to be in big trouble. But our health standards, what do we do in health? I think that's one thing I'm really proud of, both in our health course and in physical education. We're really putting a lot of emphasis on teaching health in PE. We're teaching nutrition. We're teaching other health concepts right in physical education, and more importantly than health concepts, health skills. Our ninth grade health curriculum is very much skills-based, teaching kids how to make good decisions and practice good health skills. So that's another thing. It's a whole nother hour, a lot of time we could talk about. But I think we have to start bringing those health standards into physical education, because we don't have enough time in our health courses alone. So I just don't want to leave that out.
Wait, I'm not hearing Todd right now.
That's because I'm muted. Either. Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, there you go.
Because the kids were doing things in the background. I didn't want you to hear it. But anyway, what kind of came off of what you both said at the end is I recently had a group visit my school to take a look at my curriculum and whatever. And one of the things that they kept coming back to was, kids just like the sport model. They don't like fitness. They don't like health. So that's why we keep doing the sport model. And, and I had an answer for them and so on, but I'd be interested in hearing what if each of you want to take it. We'll start with Matt and then Dave, echo it or whatever. What would you say to somebody like that who's saying, hey, you know what, the kids just don't like fitness. They just want to play basketball or whatever.
Well, if that were true, then this wouldn't be happening. In almost every public high school across the state, between 15 to 20% of students participate in athletics, which means that essentially 85% of the student population is not participating in athletics. So if that statement were true, then I think that percentage of participation would be much, much higher. Not saying they don't like sports, and there's nothing wrong with doing sports to deliver some type of content or standards in phys ed. If you watch phys ed classes at CV, you'll see some sports being played, but that's not the purpose. It's not basketball for basketball's sake. It's basketball for something else. So I don't buy that attitude that, phys ed is for everybody. Athletics is for a small population.
I couldn't agree with Matt more in what he's saying. I think that sports definitely have their place, especially in the middle school curriculum and small-sided games. There's definitely a place for them. But one of my favorite quotes is from my predecessor, a guy named Bob Miller, who is retired department chair at North Allegheny. And he always talked about having fun as a sense of satisfaction compared to having fun goofing around. And I think our kids develop a sense of satisfaction and pride in themselves. And we really work on team building, having an inclusive environment where we encourage each other and support each other in fitness. And when you see somebody struggling, pulling them along or pushing them along, whatever it is you have to do, versus judging each other. And that sense of satisfaction and accomplishment goes a long, long way. And you have to foster that. It doesn't just happen. You can't say, go hard and work out and that's it. And the kids are going to do it today. You have to foster that and encourage it and get kids to encourage each other. And I think that's where we're most successful, is in our teachers and our students doing that for each other and being a very positive environment. And that's where the fitness curriculum really takes off, is when you get that environment where people want to do it and they want to support and push each other.
And fitness takes you to the highest level of needs, self-actualization. So yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much. We've probably wrapped up. We've probably gone longer, but it was so much fun that it doesn't feel like we were almost an hour into this. So I so appreciate you both being here. And like I said, there's no two better department leaders in the entire state of Pennsylvania, and I would even say the USA, although I don't know that many in the USA. But if you're looking for good example programs, North Allegheny School District, you can find them on the web. Conestoga Valley School District down in the Lancaster area, you can find them on the web as well. And Matt's representing his Eagles playing the Patriots this Sunday for the Super Bowl. This is
for Jess, right? Go Eagles!
Absolutely. So thanks guys for being with us tonight, and we look forward to sending the blog topics out, and we'll be doing a Twitter chat Thursday night, 8 p.m. on Twitter. It's #InnovateHPE, and we'll send first question at 8 o'clock, and hopefully you'll join us, and hopefully tonight stimulated your thinking a little bit, and we appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dave.
Hey,
Thank you.
I also just want to say thanks